प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तभूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. Hari Om. Sorry, my internet had some problem. ठीक 6:02 बाकी थे क्लास के लिए 6:58 एंड सडनली इंटरनेट लोड शेडिंग हो गई थी 4-5 मिनट के लिए. पर इससे मुझे एक याद आया. उपनिषद में, किसी भी उपनिषद में इन्वोकेशन होती है एंड इन्वोकेशन गुरु और शिष्य दोनों एकजुट चांट करते हैं. एंड उस इन्वोकेशन का महत्व यही है, दो महत्व है ब्रॉडली. एक है कि इट विल प्रिपेयर द टीचर एंड द स्टूडेंट फॉर द इंस्ट्रक्शन. देखिए, होल डे और थ्रू आउट योर लाइफ, थ्रू आउट योर time, 9 out of 10 experiences you're indulging in the world, you're thinking about profit or loss, you're thinking about loss or gain, you're thinking about happiness or sorrow, you're completely entangled in your worldly affairs. And spiritual knowledge jo hai, it's asking you to pluck your mind away from your worldly entanglement and into this thought, this contemplation about God, about reality, about the truth, about solving the mystery of life. So that plucking, वो एक स्मूथ ट्रांजिशन के लिए, आपकी माइंड को शिफ्ट करने के लिए हम इन्वोकेशन चांट करते हैं. जैसे आप संस्कृत में श्लोक सुनोगे, प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्म तत्त्वम्, it suddenly prepares you. Okay, क्लास का टाइम हो गया. Not only the intonation, even what is being said, the meaning behind what is being said, it signifies our spiritual purpose, distinct and different from our worldly entanglement. So that is the primary reason we chant an invocation. And invocation ke end mein, usually in the Upanishad, invocation ke end mein, they say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. 3 बार शांति chant करते हैं. पहली बार जोर से chant करते हैं, Shanti. Second time they chant it little softer, Shanti. Third time they chant it very soft, Shanti. Are praying to the Lord, and they are essentially saying, "Oh Lord, I have brought myself, I have done my part and brought myself, I have prepared myself for the study. अब आपके हाथ में है. I have taken care of my body, I am here. I have taken care of my mind, I am here. I have taken care of my intellect, I am here. Now I pray to thee, may we not fight, may we not become disputatious, may we learn well, may we enjoy our learning." These are the things that are said in an invocation. May we live 100 years living this knowledge, serving people. May we have strong limbs. What is the purpose of having strong limbs? So that you can live and follow this knowledge until you reach your goal. So this is what is chanted in the invocation. And in the end, when he says Shanti, 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 because there are innumerable disturbances that can take you away from this path. Anything in the world can distract you away from this. There could be some kind of crisis, and you won't have time to think about this. So the teacher and student themselves chant Shanti, so that there are no cosmic disturbances. At the cosmic level, there is no hail, storm, rain, earthquake. Please, we are here to study. May we not face any cosmic disturbances. Second is for environmental disturbances. That's why it's chanted a little softer, only for those around you. Maybe not face any environmental disturbances. Maybe may there not be any animals coming and disturbing us. May there not be load shedding. The reason I'm telling you this is because अभी load shedding हुआ. हमारे invocation chant करने के पहले एक load shedding हो गया. So एक environmental disturbance आ गई. And the third shanti is for you, disturbances within you, in your mind. You're telling your mind, listen, keep quiet right now. Don't be disturbed. Okay? We are going to study something serious. Keep quiet. So cosmic disturbances, environmental disturbances, inner disturbances. Shanti. I need all my focus, all my attention here, all my dedication here. So with that thought, with that dedication, and moving ahead from the load shedding and the Wi-Fi trouble, we are ready to start class today. So we were discussing yesterday, we had started about talking about the yajnas, how to turn every single experience of life into worship. You have three experiences, broadly speaking. Three types of experiences. There is receipt of stimuli from the world through the senses. Your senses receive stimuli. There is a reaction of those stimuli within you. And then there is a response to the world in the form of a physical action through your organs of action. So your senses take in stimuli, your mind and intellect react with the stimuli within you, and your organs of action respond to the world. That is the transaction taking place at every moment. Something you are seeing, your mind is reacting to that, and based on your reaction, you're responding. Either you ignore it. If there is no reaction, basically, if there's no interest, no desire, your response will be what? You just look away. But if you have a strong reaction, if you have a strong desire, what will your reaction be? You'll run towards it. You'll run towards it. So, how do you remember the Lord in and through every transaction of life? The mind has a tendency to be completely involved in whatever it perceives. It grabs you. It's like a quicksand. You get stuck in it and you sink in it further and further. How do you save yourself from this daldal? How do you remember your higher purpose? How do you remember the Lord in and through every experience of life? And that is what we started discussing yesterday with the yajnas. First of all, the first two yajnas were the yajna of your goal. What is your goal in life? Are you worshipping to the gods? Are you performing sacrifice for the gods? Which means, do you have material, worldly pursuits? Or are you performing sacrifice itself to Brahman? Is your goal the ultimate goal of self-realization, of spiritual enlightenment, of moksha, of liberation? What is that fire? Remember, three important things in any yajna. The fire, the deity, what you worship. Are you worshipping the gods, the various aspects of the world, wealth, health, knowledge, fame, success? Are you worshipping the gods? Or are you worshipping Brahman? What is your fire? Is it the gods or is it Brahman, the one and alone, the singular purpose of moksha, of enlightenment? What is your goal? And in order to reach that goal, in order to reach that ultimate purpose, he says, you have to sacrifice itself. What is this? The second thing important in a yajna, beyond the fire, is the ahuti, the offering. What are you offering into the fire? When you offer something into the fire, that represents your effort. That represents the work you need to do to get the desired outcome. If you put in good things into the fire, there will be a good response. There'll be a good smell. You put in chandan, you put in perfume, there'll be you put in ghee. But if you put in terrible things into the fire, if you put in a tire, If you put in pungent food, what will happen? It'll smell. So the reaction will be, the result will be bad. So what is your ahuti? What is your contribution? In order to pursue the ultimate goal of self-realization, here he says in verse number 24, which we discussed yesterday, you have to sacrifice itself. That very feeling, that very kartritva bhavna that I am doing this. I am so great. I am so unselfish. See, we become unselfish from selfish. We become unselfish, no doubt. We develop that spirit of helping others, but we get stuck in the ego of doing. We get stuck in the ego of sacrificing. Look how much I'm sacrificing. Look how much I'm doing, but they don't appreciate it. Nobody appreciates me. We develop that spirit of sacrifice, but we get stuck. We get attached to the very act of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice itself. That very feeling that I am sacrificing. All your sacrifice, all your unselfish action, all your selfless action is performed not with an expectation of return, not even with an expectation of recognition. All your unselfish action is performed in the spirit of gratitude because you have already received. Karmanyevadhikaraste. You have already received and you are continuing to receive. Your only duty is to serve. And to serve without the feeling, I am serving. I am being unselfish. I am helping others. See, I am serving so much, but they are not serving me back. How is it fair? 9 out of 10 people complain like this. First of all, barely anybody serves. Everybody wants others to serve them. Among those who serve, 9 out of 10 people, look, it's not a fair relationship. I am serving so much, they are not serving me enough. Service is not a transaction. Service is not a transaction. If both people in any relationship have the spirit of service, it is heaven. The problem is we serve with the idea of, oh, how much will this serve back? We measure our service. It's not possible. Service is complete dedication with no expectation of return. Why? Because you have that attitude of gratitude that you have already received. You're just passing it on. You don't pay it back. It's not called pay it back. You know, you say, or people say, I have to pay you back. You pay it forward. That's the spirit. That's the spirit of service. So sacrifice itself, sacrificing that feeling that I am doing it, sacrificing that expectation of return. If you want to evolve spiritually, that has to be your attitude in any action. And having developed that goal, having developed that attitude, plunging into every activity of life, we saw with perception we saw. With perception, in verse number 26, we saw people offer sound and other sense objects as sacrifice into the fire of the senses. Sound and other sense objects means sound and other stimuli are the ahuti, are the contribution. And what is kindled? What is the response? The third important thing in a yajna. First is fire. Second is offering ahuti. Third is kindling. What is the result? What is the outcome of that offering? When you offer ghee, the fire rages up. That is the kindling. So that is the third essential aspect of a yajna. In and through the offering and the kindling, your thought is on what is making this happen. Your thought is on the fire. Your thought is on that goal. So, in the yajna of perception, you offer sound and other stimuli, other sense objects as sacrifice, as an offering, as an ahuti. And what is kindled? Perception is king. Now the question is, where is your focus through this perception? Are you focusing on what is being perceived? Are you completely enmeshed and lost in what you are seeing, in what you are hearing, in what you are tasting? Or is your thought on that enlivening principle? What is making me see? What is that power with which I am able to hear? If you shift your attention, that's it. You're perceiving the same thing. If you shift your attention, you are spiritual. Two people enjoying the same thing. To be spiritual, you don't have to suppress perception. You cannot. You can't close your eyes and stay. It's not possible. Some people, they close their mouth and close their eyes. It's not possible. How long will you do that? It's not possible. You cannot stop stimuli from entering you. You cannot stop stimuli from entering you. What you can do is how you deal with the stimuli. Do you mentally indulge? Do you get enmeshed in what you perceive? Or do you shift your thought? What is making me perceive? Heaven and earth difference. Adi Shankaracharya says it beautifully in the Bhaja Govindam. He says, Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sanga Vihina. Whether you're doing yoga or bhoga, whether you're in the din and roar of the marketplace, Sangaratova or Sanga Vihina in an isolated place, it does not matter. It doesn't matter what you are perceiving. It doesn't matter what your perception. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam Nandati Nandati Nandati. Contemplating upon Brahman, he whose focus is upon the Lord, he whose thought is upon the reality, upon the spiritual goal, such a person is happy. Such a person is spiritual. Such a person will evolve. It doesn't matter. So you cannot stop perception. Yes, if you have a great weakness, if you're an alcoholic, or if you're a foodie, a junk foodie, some people are obsessed with food. They see food, they can't stop. For that, you will have to regulate, maybe control for some amount of time. If you're an alcoholic, you'll have to stop going to the bar for some amount of time. But in that time, when you temporarily restrain, when you temporarily restrict, what do? You gain knowledge, this higher knowledge. And when you gain knowledge, you can go back to the experience. That's the idea. You have to go back to the experience better equipped, with better control. The problem is people only suppress, they don't gain knowledge. They wait for knocks and shocks of life. Only when the knocks and shocks of life appear, when we develop some kind of physical problem, suppose we have a weakness for sweets. For years and years and years, we won't gain any knowledge. What will we do? Time and again, we will go into a diet. Every few months, for a few days, we'll go into a diet. We'll suppress it. But suppression will not work. What will happen? The desire for the sweet will come back. वापस आ जाएगी with a vengeance. आप जहां एक दो मिठाई खा रहे थे, 4 खाने का मन करेगा. उस suppression का यही effect होता है. It comes back with a vengeance. And then what happens? You will not wake up until suddenly you take your blood report. Cholesterol levels are going up. Blood sugar level is borderline. Even that thread doesn't work for many people. Even that thread doesn't work for many people. So where is your thought in and through any perception? Do you get completely enmeshed and indulged? See, the point is, when you have in life, you will be able to monitor this perception. You will be able to shift your thought away from indulgence. When you have a goal in life, suppose you're an athlete, Olympic runner ho, That remembrance, that reminder of the goal will help shift your thought. No, indulgence will take me away from my goal. If I indulge in these sweets, if I indulge in this junk food, I will move away from my goal. That remembrance itself will help you regulate your senses. So that's the next yajna. What do you do with that perception? Others offer hearing and other senses as sacrifice into the fires of restraint. You offer perception with a remembrance of the goal, and what is kindled? क्या प्रज्वलित होती है? Restraint प्रज्वलित होती है. एक तरीके का regulation प्रज्वलित होता है. You gain the ability to slowly regulate. You can't suppress. You can't cut it off. What you can do is regulate. You can monitor. And when you regulate, when you monitor, you are able to gain knowledge. If you're completely indulged, you won't have time. Suppose you're partying till 2 o'clock at night, completely indulged. Will you have time to attend this class in the morning? You know, yes, I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Guruji has said that we should wake up in Brahma Murta. But you're completely indulged in the world. You have no time and energy. You won't have the capability to focus on this. On the other hand, if you completely suppress your worldly desires, no, Guruji has said, I have to wake up at 5, so I will sleep every day, 9 o'clock sharp, like a clockwork. It will work for a few days. Eventually, you'll start feeling suppressed. Somebody in the family is getting together to watch a TV show, a little bit, till 10:30. You'll feel that suppression. No, I'm supposed to sleep at 9 o'clock to wake up. It won't work. On the other hand, if you completely indulge, it won't work. What do you need? You need regulation. You need moderation. That is the yajna of restraint. It should be a little painful. Restraint means जितना मन करे उससे थोड़ा कम. आप पूरी तरीके से मन को सप्रेस नहीं कर सकते. आप मन को फ्री हैंड नहीं दे सकते. You have to slightly restrain it. That capacity to stop eating at 80%. What happens when we start eating? हमें इतना अच्छा लगने लगता है, हम 2 खाते हैं, 4 खाते हैं, 6 खाते हैं. At the end, we realize, hi, overeating हो गया. Why? Why did you end up overeating? Because while eating, your mind completely got indulged. You lost all sense of proportion. And in the end, you regretted it. If you have that capability, that awareness while eating, stop at 80%. Bas. The mind still wants to eat. You've catered to the mind a little bit, but then you say, bas, that's it. That capacity is what we are trying to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes some regulation. All I'm saying is that it has to pinch a little. It has to be a little difficult. Restraint is a little difficult. Restraint is not suppression. And certainly, you can't indulge. Restraint is that little bit of effort, a little bit of a limit, a little bit of a control you have to impose upon yourself if you want to evolve spiritually. Ultimately, all self-control comes from knowledge. Ultimately, all self-control comes from knowledge. Nigraha kim karishyasi, Bhagavan कहते हैं in the Gita. What can restraint do? Ultimately, when you gain knowledge, whatever stimuli you experience, whatever environment you are in, you have that capability to keep complete mental equanimity. That's the next shlok. That's the next yajna, the yajna of self-control. We'll take up in verse number 27. Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma samyama yogagnau juvvati jnana deepite sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare आत्म संयम योगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञान दीपिते। कई इंद्रियों के सारे कर्मों को तथा प्राण कर्मों को आत्म संयम रूपी योगाग्नि में आहुति देते हैं, जिससे ज्ञान प्रज्वलित होता है। Others sacrifice all the functions of the senses and the functions of the vital layers into the fire of the yoga of self-control, kindled by wisdom. So perception आया, पिछले श्लोक में हमने देखा perception आया, stimuli आई, stimuli अंदर घुसी और इस stimulus से क्या हुआ, perception पैदा हुआ. And उस perception से आपने क्या किया? Did you indulge or did you suppress or did you regulate? Did you restrain? Did you moderate? To evolve spiritually, you have to regulate, you have to moderate. And when you live a regulated and moderated life, it helps in gaining knowledge. If you have a regulated and moderated life, elsewhere in the Gita, Bhagavan कहते हैं, this knowledge is not meant for one who eats too little or eats too much, sleeps too little or sleeps too much. This knowledge is not meant for such a person. You can't be on either extreme. You have to live a regulated, moderated life. You have desires, you have duties, you have attachments in the world. You have to regulate and moderate them. You can't simply cut away from the world, and neither can you give your attachments and your desires a free hand. That regulation, that moderation has to happen with your buddhi. You have to develop your buddhi to regulate and moderate. And when you live a regulated, moderated life, it helps in gaining knowledge. देखिए, this is a marathon. Spiritual path is a marathon. ये एक T20 मैच नहीं है, ये एक टेस्ट मैच भी नहीं है, ये एक टेस्ट सीरीज है. टेस्ट सीरीज है ये, काफी समय लगेगा. So you have to ensure on this journey you are doing everything you can to run the marathon. अगर आप मैराथन भागते हो और पहले ही किलोमीटर में आप स्प्रिंट करने लग जाओ, क्या होगा? आप कोलैप्स हो जाओगे. आप कोलैप्स हो जाओगे. A lot of people jump into this path and become over enthusiastic. They suppress, they restrain. Why? Because कहते हैं नहीं, the only purpose of life is to gain self-realization. From today, I am not going to indulge in any senses. I am only going to meditate. If on day one you suppress your entire senses, you suppress your mind and try to go to the ultimate state, the ultimate practice, you will burn out. It's like a marathon runner trying to sprint in the first kilometer. पहली किलोमीटर में वो सारी एनर्जी बर्न आउट कर देगा. You have to pace your innings. You have to pace your innings. कहते हैं ना in cricket, you have to pace your innings correctly. अगर कोई बैट्समैन आता है और पहले ही बॉल से he tries to hit a six, chances are he'll get out. Pace the innings well. So that's the restraint. When you live a life of restraint, you help yourself to gain knowledge. Your mind is composed, more receptive to knowledge. And with that knowledge, when you gain knowledge through Shravana and you contemplate upon it, reflect upon it, question it, engage with it, practice it, experiment with it, all these things when you do with knowledge, slowly, shanai shanai, it turns to wisdom. And जब wisdom पैदा होती है, you are perfectly self-controlled. You can be anywhere. You can be among anything. You can have all the worldly temptations around you. Your mind will be your servant. You will not be your mind's slave. Your mind will be your servant. The mind is a great servant, but a horrible master. The mind is a great servant, but a horrible master. When the mind is your servant, you can scale mountains. You can achieve anything in the world. All your passions, all your emotions, given the right direction, are beautiful. But the mind is a horrible master. If the emotions are controlling you, if the passions are controlling you, it leads to devastation. So who is controlling? Who is the question? Do you have that self-control? Ultimately, for self-control, you need wisdom. You need that wisdom. You have to use, discuss, contemplate, experiment, and ultimately, what will be born? Wisdom will be kindled. And with that wisdom, you will be perfectly self-controlled. So this is the perfection of the reaction within. We are still on receipt and reaction. With knowledge, with manana on the knowledge, you reach a state where you gain wisdom, where you turn that piece of information. All of this I'm discussing with you right now, all of this I'm sharing with you right now is knowledge, is information. You have to use your own effort, put in your own effort, contemplate, think, discuss, engage, question, to turn it into wisdom for yourself. And when you have that wisdom, you will perfect the second transaction of life, which is reaction. Your mind will be perfectly self-controlled. Your reaction to stimuli will be well regulated. Right now, what is our reaction? Our reaction is erratic. Our reaction is uncontrolled. So with this yajna or self-control, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen simply by listening to lectures. It doesn't happen by simply going to an ashram for a week. I can say it doesn't happen by simply going to ashram for 3 years. In 3 years, you gain knowledge. In 3 years, the idea is hopefully you have gained a basic understanding of what this knowledge is trying to say. But after that basic understanding comes your deeper exploration. That is your own effort, my own effort. Nobody can make you think. You can take a horse to water, you cannot make it drink. A guru can give you knowledge, a guru cannot give you wisdom. Converting knowledge into wisdom is your own effort. It will require your own effort. Yes, the guru is always available to answer all your questions. The guru is always available to remove all your queries. But to ask those questions, to engage in the knowledge, is your effort and your effort alone. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time. But eventually, when self-control is developed, that second transaction of life, the reaction is perfected. And then how do you respond into the world? That third transaction, how do you respond into the world? With what spirit, with what awareness, with what attitude do you respond to the world? That is verse number 28. The 4 external yajnas, the response into the world, which we will chant together right now. Dravya yajnastapo yajnaha yoga yajnastatha pare swadhyaya jnana yajnascha yatayas samshitavrataha dravya yajnastapo yajnaha yoga yajnastatha pare swadhyaya jnana yajnascha यतयः संशितव्रताः। इस प्रकार कई द्रव्य यज्ञ, तपो यज्ञ, योग यज्ञ करने वाले तथा कुछ भयंकर व्रतों के से युक्त संयमी लोग स्वाध्याय ज्ञान यज्ञ करते हैं. Yet others again offer wealth as sacrifice, offer austerity as sacrifice, offer yoga as sacrifice, and ascetics of rigid vows, offer study and wisdom as sacrifice. Externally, in your response to the world, the yajna, the offering and the kindling can take, broadly speaking, 4 forms. You can help or you can serve materially. You can offer wealth as sacrifice. It is sacrifice. Offering your wealth is a sacrifice to help others, to serve others. Second comes offering austerity. Austerity means your own effort, your physical effort, your time, your energy. See, you can simply donate, sign a check, do a bank transfer. Or you can actively engage your time and effort to find solutions, to consult, to guide. You can offer your physical help. Greater than physical help, is emotional or intellectual help. Yoga, in this context, yoga means emotional or intellectual contribution. You can help someone emotionally. You can be a listener for them. You can help them through an emotional period. You can offer your love and affection, your care. That itself is a big sacrifice. It requires more of a sacrifice than simply signing a check or simply spending your time. Are you emotionally invested in whatever you are doing? Are you emotionally invested in that contribution? Offering emotion is sacrifice. Offering knowledge is sacrifice. Very important. Intellectual contribution. Greater than material, greater than physical, greater than emotional is intellectual contribution. Here he doesn't say that. In verse number 33, he'll say that. Lowest is dravya. Dravya itself is great. Most people don't even do dravya yagya. Dravya itself is great. Greater than dravya is tapo yagya, serving through your physical time and effort. Greater than tapo yagya is yoga yagya, your emotional and your intellectual contribution to help someone intellectually, to remove their doubts, to solve their queries, to help them find a solution. See, that's not simply emotional contribution. Emotional contribution will help soothe the person temporarily. Intellectual contribution will help find them permanent solutions. That's why it's greater. It's a greater effort and it's a greater contribution. But he says, what is the greatest sacrifice you and I can perform? What is the greatest contribution you and I can make to the world? He says, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. Ascetics of rigid vows, those who have a rigid, dedicated pursuit of their spiritual goal, such ascetics of strong conviction, they offer study and wisdom as sacrifice. Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. Swadhyaya means self-study. Self-study. What's the greatest contribution you can make to the world? Is it material help? No. Is it physical help? No. Is it intellectual or emotional help? No. What is the greatest help then? Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. The time you spend in studying and learning yourself. Because that knowledge which you gain will transform you. Only with that transformation will you be able to pass it on to the world. First, you have to transform yourself. First, you have to gain the knowledge yourself. You can help others only when you are well equipped. If you are not in a state to help, how will you help? If you are not emotionally stable, if you are not intellectually clear, if you are not spiritually aware, how will you help others? You can give all the knowledge in the world, it won't help. So your greatest contribution to the world, your greatest sacrifice is the sacrifice you make to study, learn, contemplate upon these truths of life. Swadhyaya, Swadhyaya. If you want to help the world, begin by helping yourself and plunging into the study of this mystery, the study of these deepest truths of life. You will become a lighthouse for others. You will become a guide for others. You will become attractive for others. But first you have to help yourself. Charity begins at home. Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. This is an external action. So we've covered internal perception, internal restraint, internal self-control, and external activity. This is broadly speaking, the yajnas, the spirit of service and sacrifice, with an awareness of the higher goal, with an awareness of your spiritual purpose. How do you engage yourself in the world? In the spirit of yajna. When you perform action in the spirit of yajna, it purifies you. Bhagavan कहते हैं in the following verses, it purifies you. There is no purifier like knowledge. When he says knowledge, he means action backed by knowledge. In this context, he means action backed by knowledge. When you live in the world, infused with this higher knowledge, with the spirit of yajna, it will purify you. You will slowly reduce your vasanas, which is why this chapter is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of renunciation of action in wisdom. As you gain wisdom in life, as you slowly absorb these higher values of life through swadhyaya, your vasanas will reduce and you will progress on the spiritual path. So first was karma yoga. And when you completely enmesh yourself and you completely immerse yourself in karma, you gain a spirit of renunciation. You gain a spirit of detachment, of evolution. That is the first step through which you become qualified for concentration, for meditation, and ultimately for self-realization. So this is a journey. This is a long journey, and it requires shraddha. It requires shraddha. What is shraddha? The essential ingredient for your journey, the essential ingredient to help you cross this path. That is what we will discuss. Once again, I'm leaving you unfulfilled. I'm leaving you in a little bit with desiring a little more. Just like any good television show ends. It ends at exactly the wrong time. What is Shraddha? I will tell you that in the next season, where we will meet once again. So we've completed our 10 days together, 21st to 30th today. We will meet again starting October 21st. October 21st to October 30th, 7 a.m. in the morning on Zoom. We will continue our discussion on the gems of the Bhagavad Gita, where we will start talking about Shraddha Bhav. So this Yajna Bhav has to be coupled with Shraddha Bhav, because Yajna will not have a result in one day. You will not achieve your goal in one day. It requires consistent, persistent effort. So what is that Shraddha Bhav? We will see next season, starting 21st October. With that thought, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful month ahead. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.